Hello, everybody. My name is Bennett Tchaikovsky, also known as the accounting professor. I've had a lot of calls on this, so we're going to go through it today, have some fun. If you are a business major, but you didn't have really an emphasis in accounting, you graduated from a four-year university and you want to become a California CPA, that's what we're going to be going through and talking about today. So my copyright notice and disclaimer, my presentation is copyright 2024 by Bennett Tchaikovsky. These are my own opinions and not my employers, including but not limited to the South Orange County Community College District and Irvine Valley College, right? And these are my opinions. So as with anything, don't believe me. Go out, do your own research, and come back later. But I have no really reason to lie to you. But I'm half attorney, so you never know. Okay, we're going to be talking today about the overview of the CPA requirements. We're going to talk about assessing your units. Do I need another degree? Working part-time or full-time, making more than 80,000 a year? Should I quit my job? Classes to take, purchasing a CPA review course. So let's start at the beginning. The reason why I'm doing this presentation is I've probably had over the last 6 months, multiple students reach out to me that were business majors. And what they're finding is there is a huge demand for accountants, and especially in California. And so many former business majors who this is really marked for economics works too, or math works too. But anyone who's in like this particular area saying, well, I want to go back and get my CPA, this is a video for you. And please feel free to leave comments below or reach out to me. I have my emails that are here and I'm more than willing to help you. You can even find my office hours at Irvine Valley. If I'm not working with a student, I'm more than happy to accept you on the video call. So to sit for the exam in California, right? Let's just kind of go through and talk about this really quickly. So to sit for the exam in California, what I need to have is coming right over here. I need a bachelor's degree to sit for the exam, right? We're not talking about becoming licensed, but I need a bachelor's degree and 24 accounting subjects and 24 business subjects. More than likely, if you're watching this and you were a business major, but you didn't take anything beyond managerial or financial accounting, you more than likely have all of these business units done. Because for most business majors, you got to take a math, you got to take econ 1 and 2. So this is probably Alden plus upper division economics and finance and management courses. So more than likely, you have all these done. It's this area here where if you just took lower division financial and managerial accounting, which what most schools require you to do, this is where you're going to basically need more units. So to sit for the exam, all that is required in California is that you have 24 business units and 24 semester units of accounting. When you apply to the Board of Accountancy, if you're currently enrolled in those classes, you can basically say, hey, I'm going to have these done within 6 months. You show them the transcript and they will give you a tentative allowance to sit for the exam. So that's to sit for the exam. Becoming licensed is very different. Okay. To become licensed, it is very different. The educational requirement to become licensed is that you will need beyond this. If you're a business major, you would need another 6 semester units of accounting beyond what you took up here. You probably have everything else down here worked out because you were a business major, business related, economics, math. You'd have the rest of this part over here worked out. And you more than likely took a course in business law, American government, you probably took, or a government class, legal environment of business, one of these organizational behavior, ethics, philosophy. So you more than likely have this, and then you would just need another 3 or 4 semester units of ethics, professional responsibilities, auditing, or fraud. Now, again, with this ethics studies, right, this is basically just beyond these two right over here. So like this is over here. This is to become licensed. This is not required to be sitting for the exam. A lot of times when I get students, they want to enroll in my accounting ethics class, but they haven't finished this part up here. I say, I would love to have you in my ethics class. However, I would suggest waiting because I would want you to get this done first. Want you to get that part of it done first so that once you have this done, you're ready to go down below. So looking back over here, so to become licensed, you're more than likely going to need a six, if you're a business major, another 6 semester units of accounting, 4 semester units of accounting ethics, plus some other ethics studies. Remember, if you want to, I'm going to give you my information so that you can reach out to me. I will reply back to you with a Google Sheet to go help you get through your educational requirement. In addition to that, you're also going to need a year of general experience. You're going to also need to pass the CPA exam within 30 months, and you have to do a take-home ethics test. You're going to do this very, very last, right? So sitting should be your primary focus, right? We want to sit and take and pass that exam, and then we'll worry about this a little bit later on. Okay, so we've got the CPA requirements in California. So this is just a kind of, I want you to think about something. So a lot of my students who approach me, they've actually been working in accounting for a while. And why is it so important that you become a CPA in, California, or wherever else? Because in general, employers will not, at a certain point in time, future employers will not recognize the experience without the CPA license. And so if you have great accounting experience, but don't have a CPA license, if you were to leave your company, you may end up taking a pay cut. And again, it all just depends on supply and demand. But why do you hire a CPA, or why should a firm hire a CPA? And I always give this example. Well, I would hire a CPA because if the CPA does something evil, not only will they lose their job, possibly go to jail, but they'll lose their CPA license. And when you are hiring someone that is a CPA, that's why you're hiring them. They've been certified by the state of California. They've met the requirements. They've done their year of experience. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's the gold standard of our profession. And if you're working in accounting, or if you've been working for a long time in accounting, this video is for you, because if you get the license and you put it on your resume, all of a sudden, all that you're a CPA, well, it looks like from, even if it says I just got my license in February 2024 when I'm making this video, it looks like you've been a CPA for a very long time. So employers will get very excited and they'll start contacting you on LinkedIn, see what happens. Now, over here, so to assess your units, I kind of jumped ahead of I jumped ahead of myself a little bit earlier, but send me an email, ivc30 to cpa@gmail.com. I'll then reply back to you with a personalized Google Sheet. I do this all the time. If you come over here and you take a look at this, these are all people that I've been going through and doing this for. So it's never, ever ending, right? These are all students that I've been trying to go through and help. And I'm more than happy to go through and to help you. Do not have to take classes at IVC. If you want to become a CPA in California, I am here to help you. So complete the Google Sheet and then message me. And the other thing I'm also going to kind of mention to you is that, generally, if you went to a school where accounting courses were only 3 units each, you're probably going to need to take another 18 semester units of accounting to sit for the exam. But the other thing I also want to have you keep in mind when I talk with students, one thing that's very, very important is that if we go back and look at what's required, it's a year of general experience. So I have a separate video, which I'm going to link below, to talk about the experience requirement. But generally, if you are working directly or indirectly under a California licensed CPA, they will need to sign off on your work experience, your general work experience. We're not talking about audit, right? No audit. We're not talking about audit experience. We're talking about general experience, but this is what's really important is the person who's signing off on your general experience needs to be an actively licensed CPA. It does not have to be in California. It could be in Missouri, it could be South Carolina, it could be Texas, doesn't matter. But in California, they have to be an actively licensed CPA. Very, very important, right? So if you're at a job right now where you're working alongside or being supervised directly or indirectly by a certified public accountant, you want to get them to sign off on your general work experience. Very, very important. Because when we look at these requirements, if this is not the case, right? By the way, if you worked for somebody 10 years ago that was a CPA and they're still a CPA right now, they can sign off on your experience. You'd have to do a couple extra steps, but trust me, it's worth it. Because if you don't have this general experience, you're going to have to go through and do it elsewhere. Okay, so coming over here. So again, we're going to assess your units. You message me. I'll give you a Google sheet that's personalized to you. You tell me, hey, Bennett, I went back and did this. Promise you I can do it very, very quickly. I've done a lot of these. And then lastly, it's with the work experience. And again, if it applies to you, you want to start having that conversation now with your supervisor. If you want to know how to look up if I want to basically look up a California licensed CPA, I can come right over here and I can basically go through and look at it, right? I have other videos where I go through and show you how to look up somebody who has their license. So again, something to really go through and consider because it's one of the four parts that you need to get through. And this can be, if you don't have it immediately available, you'll have to be looking at career shifts. So, but let's go ahead and take a look. So another question I get a lot is that, do I need another degree? Do I have to quit my job? Should I quit if I'm making more than 80,000 per year? So here's the thing, right? So when it comes to, again, when it comes to do you need to have a degree in accounting? It's a bachelor's degree. It could be in history, could be in philosophy, but that's not you. You got it in business. And so for you, as a former business major, it's about getting these requirements done. All of these courses in the state of California can be done at a California community college. We charge, as of February 2024, we charge $46 per unit. Good luck to any school beating that price, right? It is a steal. Okay. You're a resident of California, or if you're not a resident of California, it might even be cheaper than other stuff, but always be careful because your state licensing, California accepts units from California community colleges as long as the university is accredited. But again, it's $46 per unit. If someone says, oh, you should get a master's degree, the master's degree, I generally only recommend if it's free, right? Because going into debt, you have to be very, very careful about. Is that something that you really want to go through and do? Now, one of the cool things is with the accounting firm Deloitte, they offer 10 fully paid scholarships at UCI, Cal State Fullerton for their Masters of Science in Accounting. Is it worth it? It depends. I would say is that if you were fresh out of school and you missed the recruiting cycle, because most of the time you do not need a master's in order to go through and recruit, but if for some reason you missed the recruiting cycle, I then maybe go do it if it's free, right? But it's not going to pay you cost of living. It's only going to pay your tuition, right? And these master's programs generally are going to require you to become a full-time student. So if you're in the boat where you're making some decent money, say if I'm making 80,000 or more per year, and that there's a reason why I'm saying that, you're probably better off skipping it and doing the classes on a part-time basis. Now, the advantage of doing a master's degree is that if you look at this down here, is that my completion of a master's of accounting, taxation, or laws and taxation is equivalent to 20 semester units of accounting study. Now, if you do that, then this is the only time you can double count the units. If I got a master's of accounting, it's going to count all up here, and I don't have to do the accounting study because I have the master's degree. So it effectively covers both areas. But again, I would not go into debt for this. It's frankly, it's at 46 bucks a unit at a community college. I I just can't tell a California resident to go into debt. If it's free, okay. But again, and if Deloitte is providing you a scholarship, Deloitte will probably be making you a job offer. So again, if you miss the recruiting cycle, or you're just brand new to accounting, you're in your last year and you say, oh my goodness, I need to become a CPA, I would definitely go through and look at this, right? So that's where a master's degree may make sense. Now, if you're going through and you're making, say, as an accountant, if you're making more than 80,000 per year, you're working 40 to 50 hours a week, you like your job, I would probably tell you not to quit your job, because when you work in public accounting, so say if you were to start at Deloitte, they're probably going to pay you between 80 to 85,000 a year. This is in Irvine. It's going to depend on where you're living. Might be less, might be more, right? But when you're making that kind of money, that's and public accounting, you that's not for a 40-hour week job. You're going to be working many more hours, and they don't pay for overtime. So if you are doing well, like if you're making 80,000 a year, you're working under a, you're possibly working under a CPA so they can sign off on your general experience, then you may be in a good spot. I wouldn't necessarily leave to go, work in public accounting. Again, what you're kind of talking about here, and part of the reason why I'm doing this video is that when we're going through here and you've been working in accounting for a period of time, you get your CPA license, all your prior experience now looks like you've been a CPA for a while. So it's that perception. And do you really need to go through and work in public at a public accounting firm? The other thing I will tell you too is I've had students, as we get older, we don't want to put up with as much call it BS, but I would call it some of the things we were willing to put up with when we were 20. So I had a student of mine who just wanted to work 40 hours a week. And that student worked at a firm for about a year, and then they parted ways. And it's because there was an expectation that if you're working in accounting, you're going to be working at least 40 hours a week. So if you're a Juris Doctorate, might be slightly more than 80,000 per year, but it's not going to be a great amount more. Okay, so now in terms of the courses to go through and take, and what I want you to go through and do is I want you to work backwards, right? So we'll talk about that. So when we're going through and talking about, like, so I've done your assessment, you just took a financial and managerial accounting course, then the next question becomes, well, what classes should I be going through and taking? What makes the most sense for me to go through and take? Well, the CPA exam is in 3 parts, plus pick your poison. So actually 4 parts. So let's take a look at those parts. When I go over here to UWorld, right? So this used to be Roger's CPA review. I Roger, and they just got Peter Olinto. And it's let's give him a shout out. No, skip this. Okay. So when we go through and take a look at FAR, which is financial accounting and reporting, okay, and we kind of look at over here is they have all these great things, which I'm not really going to kind of go through and do here, but I want to kind of go through and take a look at the different lectures over here. So general purpose financial reporting for for-profit business entities. This is generally going to be covered in maybe the first semester of intermediate. State and local government concepts, non-governmental, these will both be in some sort of advanced accounting course. And as we get to over here, cash and cash equivalents, trade receivables, inventory, these are generally covered in the first semester of intermediate accounting. And these topics over here are generally going to be covered in the second semester of intermediate accounting, meaning lessee accounting, fair value measurements, accounting for income taxes, revenue recognition. So when you're going through and choosing the classes to take, remember, when you go through and do this, I'm just going to use our IBC courses over here as an example. When you're going through and choosing the courses, right? So Accounting 202A and 202B, which are the courses at Irvine Valley, these are basically going to be the ones that you kind of go through and see and say, okay, these will help you prepare for FAR, right? Which is financial accounting and reporting. So when you're going through and you're saying, okay, I've only taken 8 semester units of accounting or 6 semester units of accounting, I what other classes should I be taking? Well, if we work backwards and say, well, to prepare for FAR, which is one of the sections on the CPA exam, then taking intermediate accounting is going to make a lot of sense, right? So if you now, by the way, can you take the CPA exam without taking intermediate accounting? Sure. It just means though that when you're going to go through the material, you're going to have to really put the time in because you're not going to be as familiar with it, or maybe you are familiar with it because of your job. Then that means less time to go through and study. So coming back over here, so let's work backwards. Financial accounting and reporting. The next section we're going to go through over here and take a look at is we want to go back over here and we want to get into audit. So let's go through and find out how do we go through over here and take a look at audit. Just give me a moment. Oh, here we go. So we're going to go to audit 2024. So when we're going through and taking a class like audit, you're going to go through over here and you're going to see all these different sections of audit. They break it down into smaller ones. If you go to Becker has 6 modules, but these have everything. UWorld CPA review. I want to say Roger, but UWorld CPA review. That's what this kind of goes through and looks like. So when you're going through again and doing these courses, what should I do to prepare for this? Well, if I'm taking a class in financial statement auditing, that's going to help you prepare basically for the audit section of the CPA review. So when you're selecting your courses, intermediate accounting for FAR, auditing for audit. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other ones. So now let's go ahead and take a look at reg, which is regulation. So with reg or regulation, what this is going to go ahead and do is we're looking at this over here, federal tax procedures, legal, agency contracts. So there's some business law here. AGI, adjusted gross income. This is a individual type of topic. Over here, corporations, partnerships. This is generally going to be covered in a business taxation course. So when we're studying for reg, the individual tax and the business tax courses are going to help us go through and study for those parts. So coming over here, right? So we've been through the big 3. Now, the next one is going to basically be something called let's pick our poison, right? Which is the first one is business analysis and reporting. And for many of you, when you're going through and looking at this particular course, this is really where you're going to want to go through and kind of go through and focus your studies on, because this is the one area that's just more kind of a general that rather than being really specialized. So, but over here, you've got some more advanced accounting topics, stock compensation, R&D costs, business combinations and leases, public company reporting. So this is going to be BAR, business analysis and reporting. So that's one of the areas, right? So you have to take FAR, audit, and reg, and then it's pick your poison. Picking your poison, it's either going to be business analysis and reporting. It's going to be over here, potentially tax compliance and planning. So if I'm going over here to the full course, right over here, tax compliance and planning for individuals. So if you've been working for a tax firm, this is going to be the section you probably would want to take because you're going to be more familiar with these different types of parts. Lastly, you've got the ISC. Okay, and if I come over here to the full course and basically ISC, when we're going through, I think this is internal controls, internal systems and controls. I don't know. But this is something that it's like, well, this is going to be very specific over here. And when we kind of go through and look at this, let's go ahead and take a look at the lectures. So this is a suite of services. So they're going to provide you with all of these different parts. See what happens when we watch this.
Hello and welcome to the ISC discipline for the CPA exam. I'm Roger Phil.
So this is Roger. He's the guy who taught me 30 years ago in a classroom. The guy's awesome. Most dynamic instructor I've met, but it's you have to choose the person who's right or the course that's right for you. I've had many students pass with Becker and with Roger, but again, this is another part. So when we're looking at the different areas in terms of where you're going to kind of go through and do, this is going to be bar, tax compliance and planning, and then ISC. Okay. Now, one of the things is so when you're choosing your courses, right, make sure you're keeping this part over here in mind. Now, when you take a class, something like over here, like intermediate accounting, that class is going to be a lot more intense than a class like spreadsheets. Now, why? They're both accounting classes. However, this class here has a prerequisite of financial accounting. This class here has no prerequisite. A general bookkeeping class, there's no course prerequisite. Intermediate accounting 2 has a course prerequisite of financial accounting. So as you're choosing your different courses, right, just keep in mind that some are going to be more challenging than others. The other thing I will tell you is that if you take challenging courses, then as you're going through and doing the different parts of the CPA exam, I've had students who took me for the full year of intermediate accounting, said that, yeah, Bennett, you covered everything except for the other stuff that you was not in your class. So you want to make sure that when you're choosing classes to take, that the harder classes you take academically, it's going to make it easier for you. But at the same time, when you're, working 40 plus hours a week, you may not be able to handle something like this. So the next thing I want to talk about briefly is that as you're going through and doing this, right, the one thing to remember is the CPA exam. Let's go back up here and just kind of take a look at what I need to do to become licensed, right? I need the education, but I have to pass the CPA exam, all 4 parts within 30 months. This is in California as of February 2024. So I got to pass the CPA exam within 30 months. So if I'm going through and doing this, right, then I got to pass the exam. Well, when I'm taking these courses, like if I'm taking an auditing class, one of the things I could consider doing is purchasing a CPA review course. Now, if you're looking to purchase Roger or UWorld or Becker, they have great deals on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. You can go through and purchase those courses there. There's some schools like Cal State Fullerton, they offer it to their students for like $1,000. But in any event, you would want the reason why I would actually encourage you to purchase a CPA review course in advance of taking your courses is because, well, if I'm taking an auditing class, so say if I decide to take the summer 2024, I'm going to take auditing at Irvine Valley College, which is being taught by Deanna Bowden. who is an amazing instructor, and she's also a partner at Clifton Larson Allen, right? So you're going to get it from the best. But if I come over here to audit and say if I'm taking Deanna's class, the thing that I want to kind of keep in mind is that, well, maybe is if I'm taking her class and I'm simultaneously studying for the exam. So say if she goes over something like, oh, audit engagements, right? She's covering something in audit engagements. And I come over here and I want to look up, basically, you got the engagement planning. I would want to kind of study for her class simultaneously to going over what is in the CPA review. Why would I do that? It's because when you go through and take a CPA review class to pass the exam, if you can do it, everybody's different. But if you've gone through the CPA material twice in detail, you'll generally pass the exam. Everybody is different. But from talking to students, and this is kind of what was for me, when I passed the exam under much harsher conditions than what you have to do now, that's what you would go through and do. So buying a CPA review course in advance may help you go through and basically learn it. When you're choosing a CPA review course, the ones that are tried and true are Rogers CPA Review or UWorld and also Becker. There are other ones out there. There's Ninja, there's Glime, there's God, they're gonna kill me for forgetting them. Ask Joey. That was another CPA review course. He's going to kill me for not remembering him, but there's a lot of different CPA review courses, and I'm going to actually let me get this one proper. Sorry, it's Universal CPA Review, right? So there's all these different ones that are basically that are out there. And I interviewed him a while back, about a year ago. We obviously need to reconnect. But again, there's a lot of different CPA review courses that are out there. They all have pluses and minuses. I would definitely, you want to try before you go through and buy one of those courses. So that's kind of like, so this is kind of doing a recap here. So again, if you want to send me over an email and saying, hey, dude, here, can you send me the sheet? I will absolutely create a sheet for you, personalized to you, send it to you. You list out your courses, you go through right over here, you'll list this all out, you send this to me, list out everything. I'll then basically I'll reply back to you. I'll go through and sort it for you on your behalf. And then I'll tell you, well, this is the number of units you need to go through and take to meet the educational requirements in California. So hopefully you found this helpful. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so at 1812cpa@gmail.com. Or you can also email me at ivc30tocpa@gmail.com. Thank you for being here today. If you'd like to see any other type of content, please feel free to reach out. Have a great day and good luck in becoming a California CPA, because we need you. We're desperate. We need more CPAs. Never get enough. And maybe you go to Washington, D.C. and make things right. We'll talk soon. Have a great day.